Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you for allowing me to be your guest today at the Den Helder Security Forum. And thank you to the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung and the CDA Dertigers for the organization. Speak softly but carry a big stick. It's a famous quote from Theodore Roosevelt, already more than 120 years old. But it is more relevant than ever. As Western world, it seems that we are doing quite the opposite. We shout out loudly from our moral high ground, pushing away a lot of countries in the global south. While we, on the other hand, cut on our defense budgets for more than 30 years and neglect our economy until this day. As an example today, I would like to focus on two pressing challenges. Why we must support Ukraine and why we must reduce our dependence from China. And these are not just political issues and matters. These are moral responsibilities tied close to our values as Christian Democrats. First, let me talk about Ukraine. The Russian invasion isn't just an attack on a single country, it's an attack on democracy, freedom, and the rule of law. Principles we as Christian Democrats deeply value. Ukraine is fighting not just for its survival, but for the values we hold dear. Allowing peace on the terms of Putin would mean surrendering of the Ukrainian people. And if we must believe Medvedev, Ukraine would cease to exist. This so-called Pax Russiana is peace without freedom, which is nothing more than slavery. It's the kind of false peace we Dutch knew in the 16th century under the Spanish rule, where having the wrong faith could cost your life. It's the same false peace the Americans faced in the 18th century, paying taxes but do not have a voice. We do not have to look far back in history to understand what this Pax Russiana means. Just look at Russia under Putin today, where demonstrating just with a blanket sign can get you arrested, or speaking out against corruption can get you poisoned. We only have to see what Russian liberation means when we look at the ruins of Mariupol or Avdiivka, to the mass graves of Bucha or Irpin, or hear the heartbreaking stories of the Ukrainian children who are kidnapped even until today. And yet still, some people argue that we should to give in to Putin's aggression. But history shows us that a pleasing the aggressor maybe gives peace in our time, but certainly gives disaster in the coming time. As Alexander Hamilton once said, a nation that chooses humiliation above danger is prepared for a master and deserves one. It is clear that the brave Ukrainians do not choose for that. And that's why we should be very grateful for them. And they need our unwavering support as long as they need it. What frustrated me is the hesitant way we are supporting Ukraine. Yes, Germany and the Netherlands are among the biggest donors, but we often wait too long and offer too little. Recently, we did a lot of offerings when it comes to air defense on the late NATO summit in Washington, but still it's not delivered, while on a daily basis, rockets and Iran drones are hitting Ukrainian citizens. John Adams once said about the French support during the American Revolution, they just held their hand under our chin to prevent us from drowning, but do not pick our head out of the water. This is something the Ukrainians might say about us today. Do we really want Ukraine to win? It is shocking that some of us do not allow Ukraine to strike Russian airfields, where jets take off to bomb hospitals and play gardens for Ukrainian children. It's frustrating that people were outrageous about reports that Ukraine might be behind the attacks on the Nord Stream pipelines. What outrages me is that even after MH17 was shot down, killing 298 innocent citizens, we as the Netherlands were still involved in the Nord Stream pipelines. This shows how we have prioritized short-time economic interest over long-time security. And that is exactly what we are seeing today when it comes to China. The short-term economic thinking that jeopardizes our long-term security is evident in our relationship with China. Our dependence on China is far greater than our reliance on Russian gas. And it's not just the increasing volume of the Chinese goods that concerns me, but also the rising quality, which threatens to make us even more dependent on China. Take, for example, the Chinese electric car. And I know it's a sensitive issue in Germany as a car-producing nation. I understand that. We are seeing more and more Chinese car brands entering the market with names like Spang, NIO, or BHD, which stands for Build Your Dream. But I think Bring Your Dollars is more fitting. Despite the consensus after the COVID pandemic that we should reduce our dependence from China, our trade deficit with China skyrocketed to 365 billion, a 46% increase. If we do not intervene to protect the European car industry, the same will happen what happened before with the European solar panel industry. It will disappear and we will become completely dependent from China. While it may seem appalling in the short term that we have affordable electric clean cars, in the medium term this could lead to even more of our manufacturing base leaving Europe. And at the end of the day, we should end up as an economic outpost of China, with no real power left. And we have seen last week what this means. Mongolia, despite being a member of the International Criminal Court and obliged to extradite Putin when it entered his country, denied this because they are too dependent on Russian gas. Do I have to give more examples why it's not wise to be dependent on countries like China and Russia? And still I see too little strategic thinking in Europe that should protect us from increasing dependence. The focus still seems to be on the short-term economic gains. If we are not careful, we will reach a point where we have no influence at all. You only have to read the reports from our security service to see that the whole idea of wandel door handel has failed. If we are not careful, John F. Kennedy's quote will suit us more. Those who foolishly sought power by riding the back of the tiger ended up inside. In conclusion, the challenges we face today are serious, but they are not impossible to overcome. In the Netherlands, we managed to build an LNG terminal within 6 months to reduce our dependence on Russian gas. Germany and the Netherlands are working even more closely together in the NATO, and we are an example for many NATO members. We must be resolute in our support for Ukraine, and we must be resolute in the reduction of our dependence in China. And as Christian Democrats, we must rise to the occasion. We must speak softly with the wisdom that our faith teaches us. But we must also carry the big stick, ready to defend what we stand for. The world is watching what we in Europe are doing, because even though the world has changed, one thing didn't change. And that's that we as Christian Democrats are the only ones who can fix this. Thank you very much.